Like many people my age, I was a huge Chicago Bulls fan in the 1990s. And of course, then I was watching a lot of WGN. And of course, they're always advertising Cubs games on WGN. I end up watching a lot of Cubs. A lot of people don't know this. The Cubs I've always claimed as my NL team. I would have worn this tonight, but it does not fit on my head, unfortunately. I've had this hat since I was probably middle school, maybe high school. I don't know. So I got the Cubs hat there. I couldn't find a good place to put it in my background. Otherwise, I would have. So I am a bit of a Cubs fan. On top of that, my brother-in-law grew up outside of Chicago, is a huge Chicago Cubs fan, has been his entire life. And of course, despite my protestations, my nephews, my niece have become Cubs fans, Chicago sports fans as well. So when I reached out to my friend Drew, fantasy guru Drew, as you might know him, one of the best DFS players in the world, several six-figure wins across multiple sports, both high stakes and large field. I reached out to Drew to see if Drew wanted to come on this show as a guest, and he said to me, yeah, for sure, I would do it. But Justin Steele, Chicago Cubs all-star pitcher, might be willing to come on sometime if we can find a night when he is free. Would you want to wait for a night when he's free? I was like, hell yes, I want to wait for Justin Steele to be available. So I'm very excited to be here tonight with both fantasy guru Drew and Justin Steele. Really excited to have both of you on the podcast with me together. Justin, I wanted to start by, well, first of all, how are you doing tonight, Justin?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. That was one hell of an intro you just did there. I'm doing great. I'm excited to do this. I was telling Drew, I was like actually pretty pumped to do this podcast. Just fantasy and DFS stuff is something I get pretty excited about. And I've followed both of y'all on socials and stuff. I love y'all's content and whatnot. So to have a conversation with y'all is awesome.
Appreciate that. Yeah. I'm excited, obviously, to pick your brain about playing fantasy sports, DFS betting, whatever throughout the night is going to be a fun conversation here. But first of all, I want to know, so how do you guys know each other? I think that is where we need to start, because I know Justin only through Drew, but you guys have gotten to know each other pretty well. Seems like you guys communicate pretty regularly. How do you guys know each other? Justin, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, I'll start off. I want to say it was something along the lines of I was playing NFL contests. That's kind of how I got into DFS, like just doing Million Maker lineups for that contest and doing 50-50s and whatnot, just kind of getting my feet wet into it. And I kept seeing his name usually towards the top of the leaderboards. And I was like, man, like it would be awesome if I could just pick this guy's brain or whatever. So I his name, typed it on Twitter, found him, followed me back. And I just messaged him. I was like, hey, at some point, would love to pick your brain, just kind of see what your process is. And, once I've, gotten to know him, became a lot better at the DFS game. So, we've also just built a great friendship as well. We're constantly, texting, doing different things. I've sent him a package. He sent me a housewarming gift for my new house. So it's been an awesome friendship we've built so far. And we both love talking DFS. So that's kind of how it started, I would say.
I love the story that you saw his name on DraftKings winning all the time, and that is how you became friends. You just had to find this guy, Fantasy Guru Drew, because he was crushing it so much. And I know Drew has won a lot and goes on hot streaks where he'll win like everything for a week straight. He'll take first through fifth in every contest. Just insane. So I get the draw to reaching out to Drew, one of the best players in the game. Drew, first, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm perfect. There's no place I'd rather be. Hanging out with you too. It's awesome.
Drew, a lot of people, well, nobody besides Justin and I right now know that what you're wearing right now is not actually a sweatshirt. Justin complimented Drew on his sweatshirt. Drew is not going. Oh, are you going to stand up for us?
I'll stand up. I'll show it off.
You're going to risk it off. There is a big hole in the crotch. So Drew was, was hesitant to show the hole in the crotch of his big onesie.
You got your first athlete on the pod. I thought, let's bring the first onesie on the pod,
Yeah, no, that was definitely a good decision there. I love the onesie there.
It reminds me of Justin Herbert. We got two Justins.
Exactly.
I'm a big sports car collector. So
are you really?
I got some sick Justin Herbert cards. Every time I see it, it just reminds me of Justin Herbert.
Do you collect your own cards, Justin?
I actually have my best card, my gold refractor 1/1.
Yeah. You're the first one, the first. I
Yeah,
forget what it's called. I used to be a big
or something like that. But
yeah, first.
Luckily, the guy who pulled it was a big Cubs fan, and he was he posted it on Instagram and tagged me in it. And I was like, man, that'd be sick if I could get like my best card. And I just saw, I was like, I'll give you ball cleats, something, whatever you want. and it was a good trade off. And yeah, I got
that's a dream.
something.
That is the autograph version, you say?
Yeah.
Do you have the non-auto version yet?
No, I don't.
That was when you said that was your best card. That was the first card I thought of. Now I'm trying to think what would be your best rookie card, because that is a prospect card. The Bowman prospect card is the best one.
This was from my first year in the big leagues. It's the gold.
Oh, it was the rookie. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know if you have a prospect card from Bowman?
I don't think I had a gold refractor when I was a prospect.
Okay. All right.
I don't believe so. I could be wrong, but I don't believe I ever signed one of them.
All right. It's been a few years since I have collected sports cards. I used to be super into it, so that's fascinating that you are also a sports.
I probably spent a little too much money on it, but it's a lot of fun, and it's something that holds value as well. And I got a son now; it's something I can hand down to him, and kind of show him the value of it. Be like, this is really cool, or even guys I played with, like I played with this guy, I met this guy, got this autograph in person, just different things like that. It's pretty cool.
Do they let you keep any of the cards? Because you sign like 1 million cards for these companies. They don't let you just keep like a few like random of their cards.
They actually don't. I have an exact number. 25,000 was the last contract I did with Topps. I had to sign 25,000 cards. Wow. It's over the course of like a year or 2 years, but like that's how many I got to do. I usually do a few hundred per sitting. Funny story. One spring training, I went to the Topps house they have out in Arizona where you can come and do autograph signings in person, just knock a bunch out. They'll write you a check. I knocked out like 2,000 in one day. And the next day, my forearm was on fire.
Yeah.
I was in the training room. They were like, what happened? And I'm like, I literally was just cranking out autographs. And they were actually worried for a few days. And I was like, guys, it's just flared up. It'll calm down.
I assume you're right lefty also.
Yeah, I do everything left-handed besides like shoot a gun or do something because I'm right eye dominant. I use my right eye to aim.
Interesting. Okay, I do. I'm ambidextrous. I do some things left-handed. Like I write left-handed, but I throw right-handed. So I'm just messed up in the head apparently. I don't know.
You just use both sides of your brain. It's actually good.
Oh, yeah. All right, good to know. Drew, just to get to know you, I want to get to know you both a little bit better. For people who don't know you that well, I just want to ask you, where are you from? Where do you live now? Do you have any favorite athletes? You present company. You can include present company if you want to. Favorite athletes, favorite sports teams. Tell me about yourself.
The person on the screen is definitely my favorite athlete. I just want to call out, Justin was saying a lot of nice things about me. Justin is just such a nice dude. Like it is awesome, getting to watch him start the season a couple weeks ago, minus the injury part. But other than that, like it's just been amazing to get to know Justin, get to be a part of his day to day. We'll text all day and just chat and stay up late some nights and chat. So it's been amazing. But to answer your question, born and raised in LA. I'm actually a dual citizen of France. My mom lives in France. So growing up, I used to go quite often and speak French, but born and raised in LA and still live in LA.
And any other, I can see the Chargers. I'm guessing the Chargers are your team. Any other sports teams?
My dad's side of the family's from San Diego. So I've been a Charger fan my whole life.
Okay. All right. Padres, or are you just Cubs now? Just all Cubs?
All Cubs. Cubs and Chargers.
Love it. Right. What a guy. Justin, how about you? I assume you're cheering for the Cubs these days, but where are you from? Where do you live now? I mean, just Chicago, I guess, is probably the answer for part of it. It gets complicated, I suppose, when you're a pro athlete. But where are you from? Where do you live? Favorite sports teams?
I'll answer the favorite sports teams question first. Growing up, my dad actually played college football at Alabama in '84. So I grew up a diehard Alabama fan. I would say that's probably my first team when it comes to fandom. Grew up an hour and a half to 2 hours away from New Orleans. So I was a diehard Saints fan as well. Drew Brees, Reggie Bush, Marcus Colston, those were like the heyday for me. So I grew up in South Mississippi, just north of Biloxi. Most people usually know where Biloxi is. I'm from Lucedale. A lot of people don't know where Lucedale is, but it's the middle of nowhere. George County High School, was drafted out of high school by the Cubs 2014. So went straight out to Arizona. So fast forward, though, get to the big leagues. I now have a house in Arizona, two properties in Arizona. One we're trying to turn into a rental, the other one we're living in. And then I also have some land in Mississippi that we're going to end up building a house on as well. So like you said, I'm also in Chicago playing baseball. So I'm all over the place. My wife, she's from Connecticut. So we're in Connecticut sometimes seeing her family. They got condos in Florida. So we go down to Florida and see them there as well. Her brother lives in Florida. And then obviously I'm traveling all over the place playing baseball. So I'm very much just all over the place. Favorite player growing up, when I was really young, since my dad was always watching the Braves, I was a Tom Glavine fan, oddly enough. Someone that, I would say I somewhat pitch like. I'm not the hardest thrower. I'm kind of somewhat of a finesse guy, but I always enjoyed watching him pitch. That rotation, quite frankly, was very fun to watch in their heyday. But funny story, just to kind of add on to that, my dad would take me to Braves games. He actually took me to a game in, I want to say 2006, 7, somewhere in there. And the Braves were playing the Phillies. And I was out there for batting practice asking for a ball and stuff. And none of the Braves gave me a ball. They probably just didn't see me, didn't hear me, whatever. Phillies come out for batting practice. As soon as they come out, Jimmy Rollins sees me, signs a ball, hands it to me. So I immediately became a Phillies fan from a Braves fan. And I didn't even – what's funny is I didn't even know they were rivals, but like all of a sudden I was like, I'm a Phillies fan now. Jimmy Rollins just gave me a ball. That's awesome. I started following the Phillies at the right time. They ended up winning a World Series like there soon after. But yeah, I ended up getting a Ryan Howard jersey there in Cooperstown when I went and played there. I've actually had the honor of, the pleasure of meeting Ryan Howard now. I got to tell him that, which was really cool. Great guy, have his number. We exchanged text every now and then. But that team was super special to me. I can damn near name like the entire roster that won the World Series. So
Chase Utley, those are the 3 I can name. Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley. I'm sure I could. Roy Halladay, maybe.
Roy Halladay, Shane Victorino, Cole Hamels. Cliff Lee. I mean, I can keep going. Polanco, Carlos Ruiz, Jason Worth, I believe, was on that team. Hunter Pence, I believe, was on that team. Ryan Howard's first base, Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins, Polanco at third. The rotation was Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, Roy Oswalt. That was the other one I was forgetting. That team was loaded. That team was really good.
I wasn't trying to quiz you there, but that was really good. Despite the,
I take pride in remembering that because I was a new Phillies fan at the time, and then they won the World Series, and I was like super excited about it. So I kind of take pride in remembering it.
Yeah, that's great. You don't do like jersey swaps in MLB, do you? Like they do in the NBA?
I actually haven't. I probably should start to do some stuff like that just for memorabilia and just stuff to hand over to my son once he's kind of recognizes what it is and whatnot. But I need to start doing stuff like that. I need to get better about that because I'm not very good about it.
Yeah, because once you're done, I mean, I guess if you're still around the game, you're probably still going to have access to all the players. But it seems pretty cool to be a pro athlete, not just for the being an athlete, but like the ability to just collect memorabilia along with your memories. Seems like a good position to be in.
Now, like I said earlier, I collect sports cards and stuff. So when I pull a card of like a cool card of somebody on my team, I always send a picture to them and stuff.
Oh, nice. That's great. Drew, let's get into your background a little bit now. First of all, is DFS and or sports betting, is this your full-time job?
It's not. I got a career that I'm very passionate about in marketing and work my butt off and will continue to do so. DFS started just as something I wanted to mess around with on the side, on weekends, overnight, you name it. And then it kind of just snowballed into a little side hobby and turned into something good.
If Justin Steele is reaching out to you being like, I want to learn more about your process, I imagine that there are a lot of people out there who want to know a little bit more about Fantasy Guru Drew's process. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit, let's start with, I'll just ask you my usual questions. What kind of background do you have in statistics and or computer programming?
I don't have anything really exciting to say. I saw this chart, which you probably saw as well on Twitter not that long ago. It was about the correlation of GPAs, grades in school, and your IQ. And for the most part, it was a consistent straight line up, right? If you had a low IQ, you did bad in school, right? If you were a 4.0 GPA student, you had a high IQ. And then there was this couple of dots in the scatter plot that were over the 2.5 GPA, so like a C student, that were like in the 140s IQ. I've never taken an IQ test, and I'm talking myself up way too much here, but I'd like to imagine that I live somewhere in there. C student, kind of just did the bare minimum to get by. Little bored, like to mess around a little bit, but math was always my strong suit. Tested out of statistics in high school, didn't have to take it in college, and it's just been my subject forever.
Drew, that is very relatable to me because I had very bad grades and like to tell myself that I'm smarter than my grades were. Exactly. Of course, we're probably not the outliers we think we are, but
no, we're just talking ourselves up.
No, y'all definitely are. Y'all definitely are.
We're just dumb guys who are bad students.
Yeah,
that's how it goes. That's what I did not realize, that there was such strong correlation. Honestly, I would not have predicted that there's strong correlation. I mean, I would guess some correlation, but
math and science were my two strong suits as far as like did y'all take ACTs? Or was it?
Yeah. I took both.
ACT, and math and science was always by far my best subjects. And then like reading, I could never read all of it in the 30 minutes they gave us. I was like, if you give me time to actually absorb this, like I could like tell you what it says, but like you're rushing me to read it. So I struggled with reading.
I was the exact same way, except science was my worst by far. So I did okay on I did well in the English section of the ACT, as I recall. I mean, this is high school, I don't really remember that well, but what I do remember is I was horrible in the science section, and I retook it and got the exact same score overall, but did even worse in the science section and better in the sections that I had been good at. So that is not I'm not a science guy at all. I'm terrible at science stuff, but it was the same thing. I went to law school, had to take the LSAT, and like there is a reading comprehension section. I do the other sections pretty well, but the reading comprehension was just like I would never get through more than 3/4 of it because I'm just a slow ass reader. So it was I could not finish the reading stuff there. All right, well, so you are in marketing, Drew. Do you have any other past work experience that would lead you to DFS?
So in college, for the most part, I didn't have a job other than playing online poker. Played online poker, made some money doing that. And then I kind of realized I kept track of every hour that I put in. I was making like $20 an hour. Great, good money. I'm not going to be able to raise a family and build up a family like I wanted to in a lifestyle. So I gave it up, and it was around Black Friday, poker's Black Friday, when they shut down all online poker. It was good timing for that. Cashed out, bought my wife a ring, down payment on a house, all that good stuff. Didn't touch any other hobbies, just dedicate myself to my career. And then funnily enough, I think it was Roto World at the time. I was diving into some info for my season-long football league with friends. They had a promo. They're like, you get a free Roto World year if you do $10 on FanDuel. Did $10 on FanDuel. Free Roto World for the year, and I won my first DFS tournament. I mashed some buttons, some MLB players. I had no idea who I was clicking, and I won. And I guess the rest is history.
That is awesome. How much did you win? Do you remember?
I think it was $100. But I was locked in.
Yeah, I mean that'll do it. Just get you hooked with that early big win. That's great. And so, what year was that? Or I mean, that's way back, isn't it?
Yeah, I can check my phone. I think 2014-ish, maybe.
I got you beat. I'm 2011, but not really until like 2013. So we're really, I think we're like the exact same kind of timeline as far as time playing DFS.
I was actually going to ask y'all when y'all started playing DFS. I graduated high school in 2014.
There you go.
Oh God, yeah. So you were just legal to play right then. Like you can't play until you're 18, I believe.
Yeah.
So you weren't even able to play. Well, Justin, how about you? Going to your background in fantasy sports, DFS, like how did you get into it? Take me to the beginning of your interest in fantasy sports, betting, DFS, etc.
Okay, I'll say it's probably started. The first bet I ever placed, I remember it was when the casinos in Biloxi finally opened up for sports betting, and me and my brother and my dad were super excited about it. There was college football coming on the next day. Went down there, placed $100 parlay, 4 teams, and it hit, and I won $1,000. And I've ever since then, it's just I've loved it. But at that point, I was starting to get into fantasy football. I was doing leagues, back home. I'm now in the Cubs league with the big league team. I was doing fantasy leagues throughout the minor leagues and stuff. I probably started getting really into it in 2018 to 19, I would say, was when I did my first fantasy football league, and that's about the same time I probably went to the casino, placed that bet. So it was all about the same time when gambling was starting to become a thing for sports and whatnot. But started getting in as I started doing fantasy. I was pretty good. Just some numbers. I think I've won 5 or 6 fantasy championships now. I won the Cubs league last year, which is pretty high stakes. I've won one home league that I've been in. I've now won it 3 times back to back. One of my other home leagues, I've won it once. So I'm at like 5 or 6 championships. So I'm pretty good when it comes to fantasy football. And then that kind of led me getting into the DFS realm of things, just because I really enjoyed like deep diving into the numbers of fantasy and whatnot. I'd stay up all hours of the night. And then I kind of got introduced to DFS, DraftKings. One of my buddies back home was doing it. He had a league with peers back home. We were doing NFL. He invited me to it. Started playing with them, was doing well. I enjoyed it. Was really enjoying the research I was doing, just the numbers, the number crunching and stuff. And this was like without any type of system or anything I was using. I was just doing it myself, and I was just really enjoying it. And then fast forward, end up running into Drew. Drew kind of shows me like this is the ropes, and kind of shows me how things are done, how things are supposed to be done. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's something, I kind of take pride in. I don't know what it is. It's when you invest time and like effort and like into something, you really want to like claim that you know something a lot about, and it like ends up paying off. There's a really good feeling behind that.
That is a great feeling. All right, your resume sounds impressive with all those championships, but really, I'm not going to be impressed if you're in 100 leagues. How many leagues are you in?
I'm in 2 leagues back home, and then the league that I'm in with the team every year.
Damn. All right, that is an impressive record. Okay, I will tip of the cap to you for what do you say, 7 championships, and that's not that many years playing. So
yeah, it's 5 or 6. It's 5 or 6.
5 or 6 still. That's an impressive record. All right, I'll give you your flowers for that. Well done.
I've also hit. I've done some crazy things. I've hit a 60. It was around $60 total, and I turned it into 25,000.
Ooh.
On a NBA Eastern Conference Finals. Pretty much a Jimmy Butler parlay, same game parlay. They were down 3-1. I'll have to send you the link to the TikTok. My wife made a TikTok about it when it was happening live. But it was pretty much $60 into 25,000. So like I've had a good string of fortune and luck. I've definitely gotten lucky. But
You got to get lucky. You got to get lucky to win in this game, even if you are good. But you got to be. You're probably pretty good too, because that sounds like.
Yeah, I've done well. I would say I'm in the green.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, it's just a great game. There's the strategy, there's the analysis, there's the hard work that Justin's talking about, and then a little bit of luck. And when it all comes together, I mean, it's just an amazing feeling. It's awesome when it all comes together.
Yeah, it is one of the best feelings when it all comes together. And then, of course, when it's not going your way, it is one of the worst feelings. Like I put in all this work and I've lost for 2 months straight. That happens. It's happened to me. Maybe I don't know if it's ever happened to Drew where he's lost for 2 months straight, but definitely has happened to me before.
I think Justin and I are both on one of those right now. It's okay. We're turning it around soon.
Yeah, I've just started turning around with just UFL, just playing DFS for UFL. I turned around. I haven't been doing anything for the sports. Basketball had a rough NFL season, all that going poorly, but UFL suddenly turning around.
Were you not the most profitable UFL player for a long time? Did you lose?
No, I made that claim. It was XFL at the time. I made the claim that I was the most. That I thought I was the most profitable XFL DFS player of all time, and then Frankie Bourne came in and showed me no, he had won like $150,000. It was one of those claims that's like, oh, I'm the most profitable because there were like 3 slates where you could win $100,000, and I won one of those, and then on top of that, I had won like 20,000 or something. When I was like, probably nobody else has done this because there's really only 2 other people who could be eligible. But then Frankie Bourne, of course, apparently somebody said that there was actually a state where you could win 150,000, which I didn't realize. So that person, probably going to be more profitable than me. Must have been Frankie. I don't know.
Why am I not surprised that Frankie just ships it?
Frankie crushes everything all the time. Yeah, that is not a big surprise that he is the one. So I think that I'm probably the second most profitable spring football player of all time, but I don't actually know if that's true. That's something that I just made up because I thought it was funny to say. I don't know if it's true, but it could be true. Drew, were you a winning player, DFS player immediately, or did it take you some time?
So after that first win of like $100, I just grinded. I just, put in the time, weekends, really just NFL, NBA over weekends. Like I said, I spent my time on my career and just kind of wanted to dedicate myself to DFS on weekends and whatnot. And I want to say like 6 months or a year, it was just like flat, just no wins, no losses, just kind of holding my own. And I remember it well. It was a $12 GPP on DraftKings. Gosh, maybe like 2016 or something. Justin's probably 12 years old. And we were at a bar with some buddies, and I'm watching the screen. It's like Steph against the Thunder when it was Harden, Westbrook, and Durant, and a last second play catapulted me into first for 15 grand, I think it was. And then since then, it's just been kind of steady up with to your point, months of down occasionally. It does happen, but for the most part, good.
Man, if only that had never happened, we wouldn't have had to see all these fantasy guru Drew. I've said before, I think that fantasy gurus should just be banned from playing on the DFS sites. Man, we were so close. Maybe potentially you could have retired if that had never happened. Unfortunately, went the other way.
You guys are just talking me up this pod. This is too much.
I mean,
you guys need to throw some insults my way. Come on.
We've all seen the screen. Oh, the insults are coming. I mean, don't worry about that. The insults will come. Justin, which fantasy and or DFS sports do you play? Like I know you play fantasy football. Do you play any other sports? I guess NBA you talked about.
I do football mainly. I do a little bit of NBA with Drew when he usually has to do a little bit of convincing to get me to get in the NBA. NBA can be a little volatile for me sometimes.
Brutal in the season.
But it's tough in season. But NFL mainly, I'm really good with UFC. I do pretty well with UFC. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing a lot of golf lately. Golf's been up and down, but I really enjoy doing golf. I like watching it.
What is your favorite to play?
Definitely NFL, just because I'm already invested in other places, fantasy speaking for NFL. Yeah. I got the 3 leagues I'm in, and then, I'm doing DFS as well. So like Sundays are awesome for me. I'm just constantly refreshing my feeds and watching Red Zone usually. So that's NFL by far. And then funny enough, the coolest sporting event I've ever been to was actually a UFC event. It was Israel Adesanya versus Romero in Las Vegas. Yeah. And that was by far the coolest sporting event I've ever been to. So UFC is something like I really have a lot of passion for.
You're not the first person to say that is the best sporting event that they've been to. Just UFC seems like people love the live stuff. That was kind of what made me ask the question, is because I'm like, NFL is my clear number one also, but UFC DFS is so fun also. Just like watching the linear nature of it it's just so fun.
It's a blast.
Drew, what's your favorite, Drew?
Football. NFL has always been my passion since I was a kid. I would just wake up at 6 a.m. and being West Coast, your NFL day start at 10, and I would watch the pregame shows that starting at 7, 6 a.m. and just watch football the whole day. And so I've just been always passionate about it. I'll stay up until 4 a.m. on Saturday nights during the season and just crank through it all.
Damn, 4 a.m. Wait, that's 4 a.m. your time would be like 7 a.m. East Coast time. So
so I'll do like 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. Luckily, my wife is a saint, and we'll watch the kids until I get up, and then make sure I haven't missed any late breaking news, which I probably have by then, and I got 2 hours to edit my lineups and then hit the ground running.
That's dedication right there, and I guess it pays off though. You can see it in the results, the dedication. I want to talk a little bit about some DFS process here, and Justin, I'll start with you. What does your DFS process look like? And I guess we can talk primarily about NFL if you want, but whatever sports you want to talk about. What does your process look like?
Yeah, right now I'm using Sabre usually to build lineups.
Sabre Sim.
Saber Sim is usually what I'm using as far as building. If I'm doing 20 max, 150 max, usually using that to build a lot of lineups. And then as far as 3 entry and single entries, I'm usually just going with what I feel like something I really like. If I hand build it, obviously, like I'll look at Saber and see if there's a value play that's kind of like a must play in certain situations. But yeah, for the most part, I use Saber. If I'm doing golf, there's other websites and other avenues I'm using as well to just kind of use all avenues of like numbers and different processes, and I'll kind of just combine them all into mine and use my process, decide what I want to do, who I want to listen to, who I don't want to listen to, and then I'll kind of put everything I like into Saber. They have a really good process where you can kind of maneuver the numbers and make it exactly how you want it. So that's kind of my process, especially like over different sports and whatnot. Saber's kind of a good hub to kind of use different processes. So yeah, that's kind of my process.
Did I pick up on you saying that you watch some content to fade the person talking? You said, there are some people you're like, I don't want to listen to this person.
I do. I mean, yeah, sometimes I do. Like if it's someone that's very renowned per se, and their opinions might sway ownership. That's something I think about.
Love that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm constantly trying to find whatever edge I can, especially when I'm as cold as I've been. I'm trying to find
that. Fading Neil was a really good strategy for a long time. It printed money.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, what printed money?
Fading Neil was
fading. That is rough. Listen. I got all those times that you were just giving me shit. I was getting 5 out of 6, 4 out of 5, just like all the time. So if you faded me, congrats on your 1 out of 5.
You'll get there. You'll get there one day.
Drew, how about you? Let's talk about your process a little bit. What does it look like? Are you doing your own projections, doing your own ownership projections, running sims? What are you doing?
I use these guys as well, Saber Sim. I think they're the best, most sophisticated product out there. With that being said, to Justin's point, you can manipulate the numbers a decent amount as well and kind of get it where you are. I want to give a shout out to a couple different companies that I think do a really good job. Rotor Grinders, just kind of paving the way for the industry as a whole. I was kind of surveyed in the early days of Lineup HQ being built out. Cam McMillan was awesome, one of the founders at Rotor Grinders, and reached out and was like, hey, you want to beta test what we got going on? And that was a lot of fun. And I think their product's amazing. FTN, I mean, what Kevin Adams and others built over the years, I think was just awesome as well. But Saber, I feel like is really, really high quality for what they're putting out there. I do, for NFL season, put together my own projections, which takes a lot of time, which is why I'm up till 4 a.m. And yeah, cranking through the data and the numbers and utilizing everything at my disposal. To Justin's point, like in golf, there's a lot of good football data out there, and I think it's important to grab it all and work it out.
That is really interesting. I did not realize that you were, it doesn't surprise me that you do your own projections, but I didn't know that. You don't do it for NBA though, just for NFL?
You just can in NBA. I mean, it just changes last minute unless you have a whole team doing it. You literally can't do it in NBA.
Okay.
I would like to. If I had the time on weekends, I've done it and I've been more profitable on doing it. But during the regular season with late breaking news, with other things in life, you just can't do it.
Okay. And I asked this of Justin already, but I guess I didn't ask you, Drew. I know that you play, obviously, NFL, NBA, I think are your the primary DFS sports that you play, but do you play MLB? What other sports do you play for DFS?
I haven't played MLB in 2 years. I gave it a shot a couple years ago, wasn't good at it, saw results in NFL and NBA and just hung up my cleats on MLB.
That was good.
Good. Golf. To Justin's point, I love doing golf. It's just great. It's so much fun. But I do have negative ROI in golf as well. So yeah, we'll figure it out.
in your defense, I feel like almost every good DFS player that I talk to is like, yeah, I just can't win at PGA DFS.
No
It is
one wins
so
in PGA.
difficult.
It's bullshit. No one wins.
Although Nelson has been winning lately.
nobody
Nelson
wins.
has been crushing it lately. Nelson Adcock has been. He was my guest a couple weeks ago, and he just had his third huge win of the year. And I think for a period he was struggling even, and he's like probably one of the best PGA DFS players out there, and he was struggling. So yeah,
It was only a matter of time for Nelson to go on a hot streak for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I'll ask you, Drew. Justin already kind of answered this. Drew, how much does ownership play a role for you in creating your lineups?
It depends. If I find an opportunity where I think the field is massively incorrect, and I could give examples. There was a couple tonight in NBA, and there'll be some in NFL and whatnot. But if I disagree with the chalk, then it's an opportunity to go on the different areas, right? Like you can identify where if the chalk is wrong, this is what's going to succeed, and that's where my ownership comes into play. If the chalk scores an 80-yard touchdown in the first quarter, then I'm toast anyways, and so be it, and that's okay too. But or ownership should play a role in any big GPPs. I don't do any cash games. I don't want to grind for 5% ROI. I want to grind for the nights of 1,000% ROI, and most nights it's going to be minus 70%, and that's okay too. But cash game is not for me. And big GPPs, you want to pay attention to ownership.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and Justin, you already said. I mean, you're listening to content for the purpose of figuring out where the ownership is going to be. It sounds like it's a pretty big part of your process, also.
Yes, there's a bunch of different. I actually share the info that I get with Drew. There's one, I'm trying to remember the name of it, that I use every week for NFL. It's like Pure Run Sports or something, and they pretty much lay out like, this is the chalk this week, this is the underplayed, this is the overplayed, and it's kind of a chart of everything. And I really like the stuff they put out. It's easy to digest information that's easy to read. But yeah, to answer your question, totally. I pay a lot of attention to ownership, especially like what he was saying was when you kind of notice something like someone's being 45% drafted, you kind of see it's like, I don't really see them hitting the ceiling, see more of a floor game. You can kind of take that, say 45% ownership, and you can split it up 15, 15, 15, and put that 15 on guys that you think are a little undervalued and could boom. And that 15% can, put you in where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you play PGA this week, Justin? Because I know the Run Pure Sports guys were all over Scotty Scheffler this week, and that of course worked out pretty well. So hopefully you listen to that.
Is that guy pretty good?
I've heard he's decent.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Scotty Scheffler.
Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, he's really good.
Okay.
He's really good. I played Scotty Scheffler. I didn't have any big wins. I did have JT Poston. I shared this.
Oh, you did.
With Drew.
First round leader.
I had JT Poston, first round leader. I think it was like $8 to win 4 or something. Those are like my wagers. I'll do like $8 here, $20 here. Like, I'm not a big bettor by any means. I like to take small risks for big rewards.
All right. So most of the questions, I think all of the questions except for one that I have laid out at this point, are all for Justin. So I think we just turn it into a conversation at this point. We can have those, we can answer those questions. But first, I mean, I got to know what you guys are sweating tonight, because I know you both played a little NBA DFS. Anything going? I'll start with you, Justin. Then Drew, you can update me on your lineup that I think you had a sweat on.
Yeah, I'm in a decent spot right now. A bunch of group towards the top. Still got this game going, so we'll see how it finishes. Right now I'm profitable, which is always a good spot to be in. But obviously I got a lot of AD. I need AD. Joel Embiid went off for 60, so that's a little hairy. Isaac didn't perform for me tonight, but I got a few sweats, got a few lineups that have some chances.
For the record, I am currently I played $431, so I'm currently winning back 106 of it. So winning back about a quarter of what I put in. And I don't see it getting any better. I had 81% Jalen Suggs. I had all the Jonathan. It did not go my way at all today. I wouldn't be surprised if I lose every dollar I put in. Drew, are you doing better than I am?
I'm working my way up there. I just saw Jokic has a double in the first quarter.
No way. I mean, that's
think
not
that's
that
the
shocking.
Scheffler of NBA essentially.
I assume that's rebounds and points.
Yeah, good call. He will hit a triple double first quarter. I think one of these days. If
that would, I mean, 10 assists in the first quarter would be nuts.
I think I've seen 8 from him, 7 or 8. I mean, insane. But yeah, we're working our way up there. We'll figure it out. You know, I was low on Maxey. I was up on guys like Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell, who had an amazing first quarter and faded back. So we'll see. We'll keep our eye on it.
This is good. Steven says, let's see if Neil gets Justin into best ball. Justin, are you into best ball at all? Have you tried it at all?
Drew's already got me.
You're already in.
Yeah, Drew's already got me in NFL best ball.
NFL playoff best ball. That was fun.
Yeah, that was actually fun. I enjoyed that.
So
I didn't do the best, but it was fun drafting it. In the process, I thought I was cooking.
Oh yeah, you were. That was fun.
I have found I get better every year.
Best ball with figuring out the teams that you need on both sides every step of the way. That's really fun.
It is one of the more fun. I think I like playoff best ball maybe even more than regular season, just because, or at least the I was going to say just the drafting of it, but I actually think the like sweating of it is also fun. Like once you get past like the first round, once it's like, okay, these teams are like legitimately live, it can be really fun playing some playoff best ball. So yeah, I'm definitely into it also. That's awesome. Are you playing on Underdog, DraftKings? Where are you playing, Justin?
Mostly DraftKings.
Okay.
Most of my stuff DFS wise is DraftKings. Betting wise, I usually use FanDuel. I believe they're owned by like the same parent company or something like that. So it's, is that right? Is that correct? Are they owned? But they're not.
I don't think DraftKings and FanDuel are. Am I wrong about that, Drew?
Those two are separate. FanDuel had a best ball draft that they acquired back in the day.
Right.
DraftKings got their own best ball option out there.
Yeah. But betting wise, I usually use FanDuel. The bet I have going tonight, I took Jokic to have 20 and 10, and I took AD to have 20 and 10. It was like plus 180 or plus 200.
Seems like Jokic is going to get there in the first half. AD, how's AD doing?
He's got 10 points, 5 rebounds, so he's well on his way.
All right, nice start there.
Yeah.
And Drew, you play on Underdog also, right?
Yeah, I'll do some Underdog. I don't do too much season-long best ball. I don't necessarily believe that the ROI, and I know this has been a hot topic, that the ROI of season-long best ball is worth the 6-month lockup period. And the time constraint, right? You're throwing in a $20, $100 entry, whatever it is. Your EV, if you're good at what you do, is $10, $20, right? And you're spending a couple hours and 6 months of lockup time. I love best ball as a game, as a profitable endeavor, not so much.
Yeah, I mean I think I agree with you about it not necessarily being like the best investment for your time. I do think that it is one of the softer games out there. So I think like from an EV perspective, like in a vacuum, I think that, I mean, you can't really talk about things in a vacuum, but I do think that it's like the softest game. Like there are enough players just drafting completely dead lineups that I think that it is, the EV is there, but also you do lock up your money for a very long time. I probably wouldn't do it if I didn't love doing it. Like it's also just, to me, really fun to draft, whereas like making DFS lineups can be fun. It kind of depends on the day for me, whereas I feel like best ball, I really enjoy the process. So I think that's it's an entertainment product largely, but I do think with some edge there as well. So yeah, I'm a fan. But as we were saying, I mean, playoff best ball, it's like you're locking it up for a shorter time period, and it's got, I think, even bigger edges. So it's definitely where it's at.
Playoff best ball is a lot of fun. There's a lot of strategy involved in it, and you can clearly pinpoint your bets. Justin's first round of NFL playoffs, I think he nailed every single game. And he was looking amazing. Second round didn't go as well, but every single game, Packers beating the Cowboys and whatever.
Wow. Yeah, there were some big upsets.
Yeah.
And he nailed it. Was impressive.
That's awesome. Good for you. Did you have the Super Bowl correct?
Yeah, I had the Chiefs winning. I forget exactly what all bets I had. I mean, I had some absolute shots for the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is more of like a Christmas Day event for sports
Yeah,
gamblers.
it's so fun. Yeah.
You're taking long shots, first TD, anthem length, all that stuff, like just to make it more entertaining. But I think I like broke even or something on Super Bowl day, but I believe I was on the Chiefs.
Yeah,
Nice.
You were. I have the receipts. You were.
Yeah. Okay.
Hell yeah. Well done. Well done. Justin, here's a question for you specifically. So I know even all-stars like yourself, you have bad outings from time to time.
Mhm.
Have you had to deal with many like fantasy sports and or betting trolls following when you have a tough game? You're already having a tough game and then you're dealing with trolls. Has that been an issue for you? And how do you deal with them?
I mean, yeah, the trolls are there. I'm pretty well active on all social platforms. I would say I'm one of the people that can actually read that stuff and not take it to heart. I actually find it kind of funny sometimes. I actually get a kick out of reading some of the stuff, but I would say some of the funnier ones are like, there's some outings I remember where I go like 7 innings, like throw the ball really well, but only have like 3 punch outs. And the guys are.
I was actually going to ask you about that. Like when you have a good real life outing
about it. And I'm like, man, I'm just out there trying to do my job. I'm just trying to get the boys a win. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's fun. Like all that stuff's like fun and games to me. Like I kind of enjoy it because I enjoy that side of things as far as it goes with like NFL, like UFC. Like I'm very invested in it, and I'm yelling at the TV. I'm doing everything that any normal fan would do. So from that perspective, I understand it. So I never take it like too close to heart.
That's good. That's good.
I would say I have a pretty good demeanor and personality for it.
That's good that you're level-headed about it. So my rule has always been like you can complain about a player on Twitter, just don't at them. How do you feel about that? Like if somebody ats you, is that crossing the line, or is that fair game to you?
No, I don't care. I mean, Twitter is all things people would say online, but never say to your face in person. So that's kind of how I always take it.
Yeah, that is pretty accurate. I think nobody would say anything negative to your face about this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to me, it's like, don't say it directly to you. Like you can complain about an athlete's poor performance. I've always, my line has always been just don't at them. Don't like bring it to their attention. Try to ruin their day. You can complain, but Drew, you seem, how do you feel about this? Is it crossing line to at an athlete?
I think the only person that I've ever added talking trash to is you, Neil.
Okay.
Other than that,
that's happened pretty regularly.
Yeah, it is. It's really fun.
And it's the same thing when you kick me while I'm down. It's like, oh, you went 5 out of 6 again. Good job, Neil. Why didn't you get that 6th one? Yeah. So appreciate it. You are also a great online troll. Yeah.
Yeah. Happy to help.
How about this, Justin? So like there are athletes out there, and I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there are plenty of athletes. I think maybe Russell Westbrook, maybe he seems like one that would have said something like this, but like there are athletes who are like, I do not care about your fantasy team. I don't give a shit. Like I only care about, I'm doing my job. Don't care about your fantasy team. They're like, get very upset about it. And then there are others who are like, I had a rough game. Sorry that I hurt your fantasy team. How do you feel? Where do you fall in the spectrum of?
I don't think fantasy baseball is necessarily as nationwide as football. So, like, I mean, guys in the NFL like straight up get asked questions like post game about fantasy stuff, which is kind of crazy to me. But for me as a pitcher, I kind of think along the lines of if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and putting my team in a position to win the game, I'm probably doing pretty well fantasy wise. So that kind of goes hand in hand for me. So like if I'm doing well for the team, I'm usually doing well for my fantasy owner as well. But since I've been on the IL, I've gotten some messages and some ats saying I need to hurry up and get off the IL. So yeah, I totally get it. I totally understand. I've had first overall picks go on the IL for me. So I understand.
For all those people who are sweating your return because they have you on their MLB best ball teams, pointing at myself here. How's the hamstring doing?
How you feeling?
Hamstring's good. I threw a live BP yesterday. It went really well. I went 2 innings. I'll head out to Arizona on Wednesday to do my first rehab assignment in the AZL league or whatever is going on there at this time. But that'll be 3 innings, and then I'll probably do a 4 inning, maybe a 5 inning, and then I'm back. I would say.
I did appreciate the first game that you had. You were crushing it before you hurt yourself. That was an awesome out that you had on the play that you injured yourself. Yeah. Really, really great play there.
I don't know if it was worth it. I don't know if it was worth it. Hindsight.
You don't think it was worth it?
I mean, it was a good play. In the moment, I felt like I needed to get that out. it was a close game and stuff. But like hindsight, I'm like, man, like, what am I doing? Just like,
I mean, what do you think you could have avoided? Like, was there a way to avoid that injury? Like you were just trying to make the play and your hamstring.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I felt it, is like kind of when I rolled into it and I just like ditched the ball to first base.
Yeah.
Like I felt it grab immediately and just rolled into it. And I've done this hamstring before, so I knew immediately what was happening. But yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just kind of a process of building a routine to kind of prevent it from happening again in the future, at least for the rest of the season. And I mean, I'm already every off season like doing as much as I can to have my body in the right position for 162 and beyond. So it's frustrating, but it's also one of them plays. Like I was telling my strength coach who I work with every day in the off season, I didn't have to make that play a single time last year, and I made 30 starts, no injury, like no hiccups really. Yeah. But that one play, it got my hamstring to grab. So the recovery process has been awesome. No hiccups or anything, so we're good.
It's also a really long season, so you can miss, a month or two and still come back and pitch a lot of innings.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Kelvin and Hobo, who has always loved the bit of Drew giving me shit about missing one of my picks all the time, says that you do have a point. He agrees with you that I should just get all of my picks correct instead of 5 out of 6.
I don't know why you do that to yourself.
Yeah, screw all of you. Justin, I've always been a proponent of like using technology for like football. I feel like it's dumb that we have the lines, like bring the lines out there, just like have a chip in the ball, have it tell you, did they make it, like, which they are doing in the UFL now. For MLB, I've always been of the opinion that like robot umps calling balls and strikes would make sense, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I am. Yeah. By the way, I should have said this at the beginning. Before you respond, I got to say you and I have a lot in common, Justin, in that I am also the ace of my beer league softball team. So you are an all-star in Major League Baseball. I am, I'd say one of the top half of the pitchers in my league, maybe for my beer league softball team. So I understand how things go, but we don't have robot umps. We have real Major League umps. Not Major League. We have real umpires for our games for Major League Baseball. Do you think robot umpires would make sense, or are you good with just having a little bit of human error in there?
I believe it can make sense. I was actually I was at Barstool today doing my podcast with Marty Mush, and he brought that up, robot umpires coming to the big leagues. And I think it can be good. And the videos I've seen of it being used in the minor leagues where they challenge the system or whatever, challenge the umpire, and it ends up it's a quick response. The fans are in tune with what's going on. It pops up on the big screen and it's an immediate feedback. I think that can be cool. But I haven't put a ton of thought into this, but like once you get into this robot strike zone thing, you have to start taking so many different things into consideration that wasn't there. Like the fact that the strike zone now becomes 3-dimensional and almost can become a trash can rather than just a flat 2 or 3-dimensional like paper that you're throwing through. Mm-hmm. It becomes like the home plate. And like theoretically, like if you throw a pitch high as you can in the air and it lands right on the plate, that can be considered a strike. Sure. When in reality, everyone knows it's not a strike. Like that's not the way baseball was meant to be played. There's also the fact of like you can throw really nasty breaking balls and it like hits the bottom of the zone, then breaks right onto the plate. Like there's things that can happen where it's like that's not a strike. Like everyone watching knows it's not a strike. So there's definitely some gray area that would need to be more defined and just different things that would need to be drawn out. But like I said, the things I've seen on social media where they're challenging the system, it shows the replay and everything. Like it's really cool. Fans are interacting and everything. I think could be good for the game, but I think there's also a can of worms that will be opened where it's like, what is the strike zone? Like what?
Right. It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So maybe they need to work on like making it perfect, I would think there's a way around that, but maybe I can't think of it off the top of my head, how you would solve that issue of like the throwing it straight in the air and coming down through the strike zone. That would be a little bit tough. So yeah, certainly something to think about.
And I'm not necessarily saying pitchers would start doing that. That's very extreme. No, yeah. I'm just saying like theoretically in whatever.
Yeah, right. But so this brings up a second question that just came to me. So part of the reason that I thought of this today was I don't know if you saw Aaron Boone being ejected for the fan behind home plate or sorry, behind the dugout yelling. And my mind was like, well, can't they just like uneject him? Can they not do that? Like, is that against the Major League Baseball rules for?
I've never seen
I've
it.
never seen it either, but that
Never
seems
seen
like a very blatant,
that
like,
you can't uneject someone. I don't think. I would assume you can't because I've never seen it.
I would assume so too, because like, why else
If it
would
was
you
ever to
not?
happen, it would have happened in that situation.
Yeah, but it seems ridiculous that you can't when it's just like, oh,
that
right.
clip was hilarious.
Okay.
That clip was hilarious.
It was, yeah, it was super funny. I loved it because you just like, you see the guy yelling. Can't hear what he's saying, at least in the clips that I watched, which is I want to hear what he actually yelled at the ump. But yeah, super funny clip. But it made me think, like, can't they just like roll this back, like run the tape and see, oh yeah, I ejected a guy who didn't actually say anything to me. Seems kind of ridiculous in that scenario, but I guess it's a uncommon enough thing. But you know, is it gonna start a new thing where fans of the opposing team like start getting a spot behind the dugout and yelling at the umps?
Well, it's already a thing. Like I would say, like fans who want to be vocal put themselves in seats where it's most benefited. Like for instance, Philadelphia Phillies. They have a lot of fans who are very vocal around the bullpen when you're warming up before the game.
Interesting.
They let you hear it. They let you have it. I usually end up laughing. Like I'm not one. I usually take like 10 minutes to warm up. I don't throw a lot. I throw it over the plate. I got my stuff going. I get in the dugout and get ready for the game. But there was definitely a few chirps from them. I was like, Jesus, like this is absurd right now.
In Philadelphia only, or do they travel to Chicago?
Philly's definitely they definitely don't travel to Chicago. Chicago is like the Chicago Cubs fans are the best in baseball. Like they love their team more so than anybody, and they're behind them 100%. The Cubs fans are the faithful, the loyal. But yeah, going to Philly it's definitely a thing. Like they let you know. They let you know.
I believe it. Drew, what are your thoughts? You have any thoughts on robot umpires?
No, I mean, it would be interesting to roll out. I mean, Justin already called out more things that I've already ever thought of.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
there's so many nuances to it. You know, on paper, you're like, yeah, sure, automate it all. And then you're like, actually, maybe not so much, right? And so there's a lot of aspects to it that would have to be thought out and figured out.
Yeah.
It takes time to change something that's been in place for 100+ years.
Yeah. I also had the same conversation with somebody recently, or saw it online, maybe like with the football with the chains. Like it seems so obvious to put a chip in the ball, but then it's like, well, what if the ball like comes in weird angles? You have chips everywhere on the ball, and would that affect the way the ball feels, the way it rolls off the hand? I don't know. So like there are a lot of it maybe isn't quite as simple as I assume it is, but it's cool that the UFL is at least testing out this technology. Of course, I tweeted about this last week or 2 weeks ago. There was a play that I really wanted the offense to be short, and as they're lining up to run the play, they go, "Oh, the True Line technology has this short by 9 inches," or something ridiculous like that. It was like, okay, well then why are you not stopping this play right now? They let the offense run the play. So still kinks being worked out in the UFL.
I could see that being a thing in the NFL though, with the chip be like in the middle of the ball and it knows exactly how far it is from each side of the football.
That should be doable.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably a little more feasible there.
Yeah. Justin, do you have any thoughts on all the recent changes to Major League Baseball? It seems like a lot of stuff that is probably going to hurt the pitchers more than the bats. I mean, the pitch clock in particular. Did you have any thoughts on all the recent changes?
Me personally, I don't have anything that's too breaking or anything like that. The pitch clock, I would say, if anything, helps me. It puts me in rhythm more successfully and kind of just speeds things up for me in a good way. I already worked pretty quick, so making the adjustments for the pitch clock hasn't been too big of an adjustment for me. I would say this past year, them taking a few seconds off, maybe with runners on or something. But I have noticed a little bit this year when you're trying to, decide what pitch you're wanting to throw, what the situation is with the runners on, the hitter at the plate, just everything you're trying to consider. The 18 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever it is, can be kind of short sometimes because you're also trying to decide if you should pick off or not. and then you only have 2 pickoffs as well. So like there's a specific time in the clock he knows you're going to pick off. If you don't pick off between then, like you're probably going home, especially if the clock's ticking. Like there's a bunch of different things. Like you said, it kind of leans towards the offense. But for me personally, it hasn't affected me too much up until this point. But I will say there's things I have noticed.
Okay. So it's makes it a little bit tougher, but not enough that you are that affected by it that you don't care all that much. If it benefits the game long term. I mean, I feel like a lot of people, I have talked to a lot of people who are like, I kind of love these shorter games. Do you
I do like the shorter games. It's kind of nice because I mean, dude, there's been some games where it's a long 9 innings to begin with, and then it ends up turning into extra innings. You got a day game the next day, or a getaway day, or you're getting away that night, and it can kind of turn into like it ends up trickling into the days after, you know what I'm saying? So the rules they have implemented, I would say, have been beneficial for the game, especially like speeding the games up like right at 3 hours, just under. It's kind of perfect.
Yeah, for sure. What are we drinking tonight? I'm drinking Woodford Reserve. Currently, I'm about to be out, so I'm going to switch to my glass of wine. Anybody else got anything?
I'm drinking Clase Azul with a little bit of Topo Chico mineral water.
Ooh, all right. I didn't know about the trick of adding a little mineral water. That's I was saying before, like I can't drink tequila straight up. It just, people love their tequila shots. People apparently love sipping it, and I'm like, I just don't enjoy tequila. Maybe if I had a little mineral water.
I'm a big tequila guy. It's usually just about all I drink. I'll drink wine with the guys if we got a nice bottle of wine out for the boys, but mostly tequila for me.
Yeah.
There you go.
How about you, Drew?
Got some Garrison Brothers, 145 proof.
Okay.
I took a sip earlier and a little bit splashed in my eye, so that felt good. But
the bloodstream.
Yeah. Quicker way in. But overall, it's pretty good for 145 proof. It's pretty smooth.
Nice. That sounds not bad.
Yeah.
Pitchers not hitting anymore. From a fantasy perspective, I always enjoyed being able to just like draft pitchers from the NL and knowing that they're gonna face pitchers more frequently. As a pitcher though, like do you wish that you got to hit, Justin? How do you feel about it?
I was actually a decent hitter coming out of high school. I was going to college to do both. And I had some pretty good swings in the big leagues, I would say. It was only for 1 year. The 2021 season, I believe, was the last season. So I only had a handful of at-bats, but I loved hitting. I was one of the few pitchers, I would say, that was kind of upset that it was going away.
Really? I would have thought that was common, even among bad pitchers. I would feel like, I just want to play.
Most pitchers don't want to hit. Most pitchers don't. They want nothing to do with it. I actually enjoyed getting in the box and being like, all right, you're best against my best. Let's go. I enjoy that. That's the kind of stuff I like. But yeah,
I remember looking it up. I think you were batting almost 200. You did pretty well.
You also got to think I messed up a lot of sack bunts in there. I messed up on some sack bunts that were just
Are we supposed to give you a pass on those that you messed up, Justin?
With the bat's out of my hands. I'm not swinging. I'm just trying to.
I see. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Bats. Yeah. I would like to know at bats I was swinging.
All right. Get back to you.
All right. You're gonna do the math.
I will. I'll figure it out. I might look back at every video.
I'm gonna go 2 for 8 or 2 for 9 in at bats that I was swinging.
All right. I like it.
That's not bad. Justin, you said you got drafted right out of high school. Did you go to college at all, or did you just go straight to? Is that something you think you might do after you're done, or just no interest?
No, I don't think, especially at this point in my career and my life, I don't think college is anything I would be pursuing. Even when I was in high school, coming out of high school, I kind of had it in my mind already that I kind of wanted to pursue baseball professionally and as a career, and kind of wanted to get that part of my life started. And I was a great student in school, A's, B's, like a 3.75. I had academic scholarships as well. So I was
better than us.
No, I wasn't.
The scatter plot.
But yeah, it was definitely one of them things. I was kind of like, I don't even know what I would want to do other than baseball at this point. So, but yeah.
What about so you just started your own new podcast. You made appearances. I saw you were on an appearance a few weeks back on some other show, some other just podcast online. Is this some? Would you be interested in doing baseball analysis after you're done? Like, is this something you're interested in, like doing, like, I don't know, podcasting or broadcasting, anything like that?
I don't know about broadcasting. I think I could do something in this sense of like what we're doing right now, and maybe watching a baseball game as it's going on and like sharing my input that way. Kind of like with the Manning cast or something. Like something.
You're natural.
Like, I think I could do something along those lines. I don't know about being in a booth broadcasting along those lines, but I do enjoy like this setting, like having a game on, discussing what's going on, what we have going and stuff. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider being a manager? And the reason why I ask is because I look at JJ Redick, who went to broadcasting and now looking to interview.
You really don't see a ton of pitcher managers. Like, it's something I was thinking about. I don't know that I would be in a position to like, or want to be in a position where I'm managing a team. Maybe like somewhere in a position of like making decisions of like who I want on the team, or like not like a GM by any means, but like someone that's doing like some analysis and like deep diving, watching film, and like making my own opinions on like what
a scout.
Not a scout, because I don't want to do that traveling. That's a lot of travel.
Yeah.
But we have guys with the Cubs who are kind of like, they would be really good at DFS stuff. Like they're in that.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I think there's a job that I would probably, benefit from.
The same numbers and strategy that we apply in DFS would apply in sports analytics.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. So you could see yourself staying in something baseball related, but you're not entirely sure exactly what the role you would want to have.
Yeah, if I wasn't doing baseball, I mean, that's tough to say. I'd probably be streaming video games or doing something along that. I play a ton of video games, but
what game are you playing these days?
Been playing Rocket League. I play MLB The Show. Play NBA 2K. I play Call of Duty. Call of Duty is something I was pretty good at growing up. Played competitively and stuff. Made a little bit of money there. Fortnite. I was really good at Fortnite when it first came out. I'm a pretty big gamer. I was a lot better at video games before I was good at baseball.
That seems like a common thing. DFS players are big time gamers a lot of the time. I know a lot of very good DFS players who are also super into gaming. So not all that shocked that you're also a gamer. I should probably get in. I was a huge gamer as a kid when it was like, Nintendo 64 or Super Nintendo, that kind of stuff. So probably not quite the same level of gaming, but the game's just so much better now. Seems like it's probably just that much more fun to game these days.
The way games are at and where they're at and where they're going is kind of unbelievable. It's going to be like undistinguishable from reality at some point.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time at this point.
Yeah.
This is a good question from Steven. Has Justin ever thrown the ball they use in KBO, which is a little more tacky to the feel? Some pitchers miss that grip they used to get. Have you ever thrown the ball they use? I was not aware that it was different.
I actually haven't. I've heard and listened to the discussion of what the MLB should do as far as the balls go and everything that's going on in the game and stuff. But no, to answer the question, I've never held or used one of their balls.
Okay.
Pause.
Yeah. How are you guys doing? Like, as far as, we've been on a little over an hour now. We're great. Good to keep going. Okay. Awesome. I meant to ask you guys before we started. I think I've said this on every episode I've had. Oh shit. I forgot to ask you how long you have, like if you have anything hard out. So, okay, good.
Well, Neil, you just owe my wife a nice bottle of wine or something since she put all 3 kids down. So,
all right, that's fair. I'll buy her a nice bottle of wine. I'll send you a Venmo and you can pick out the bottle, or
perfect.
Send me a Venmo request.
There you go.
How about since we're talking baseball, I don't know if you have thoughts on the Hall of Fame controversy. Barry Bonds, to me, not being in the Hall of Fame is just kind of wild, but Bonds, Clemens, a lot of the best baseball players of all time, in my opinion, are not in the Hall of Fame. Do you have a stance that you're willing to share on this issue, Justin?
Yeah, I think they should all be in the Hall of Fame. It's not. I think a lot of people probably share that opinion, or at least people around my age or around my, around my age, pretty much. But I think back to growing up watching baseball. You think about Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, those guys. I mean, yeah, it was a hairy era of baseball, but it was also what a lot of us grew up watching. That was what the best of the best were doing. That's what it was on TV.
Yeah.
So to me, it's hard to fault them for the situation that they were in.
Yeah.
They were just keeping up with everybody else.
Exactly, because odds are your favorite player was doing it. You know what I'm saying? We only know 1 to 5% probably that came out and said they were doing it. So it's super hard to just hammer the guys that, ended up being the Hall of Famers of that era because they were doing that when in fact everyone was doing it, even your average players. So, and I'm not naming names by any means, but I'm just saying like the era of baseball that's what was going on.
Right.
But yeah, to make the answer a little bit shorter, I think they should definitely be in the Hall of Fame. And I think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame too.
Yeah.
Drew, you're on the same page, it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. To Justin's point, right? Like everyone's doing it. You're keeping up with the times. I don't think anybody in this world can doubt their talent, their natural, the work that they put in, regardless of what they were taking, the work that they put in, their natural talent, their performance. I mean,
you don't think you could hit 762 home runs if you took steroids?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
No, I remember when Bonds was chasing the record, and I think he was going for 71, 2, 3, something like that at the time.
Yeah.
It was the second to last game of the season. My dad took me out to the Giants game. We flew up north. My uncle lives there. We went to go see. It was the Saturday game. We wanted to sit in the bleachers and have a chance of catching Bonds' record ball. He sat on the Saturday. He played on the Sunday, the game that we didn't go, and he hit it.
Of course.
Yeah, that was rough. That was rough. We spent a couple grand in 20 years ago. That was rough.
Justin, so I made reference a couple times to your new podcast that you just started, I think last month, with Marty Mush from Barstool Sports. Tell me about the podcast. What's it about? Do you have any idea like how frequently we can expect episodes? Just tell me kind of how that's going.
Yeah, it's going good. We actually recorded the second episode today. We did a first episode, I think 2 weeks ago. It was something I went on their podcast and went in their office in New York when we were playing there last year and recorded an episode with him. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And prior to that, we were chit-chatting, talking different things. And I briefly met a handful of the Barstool guys. I watched the Super Bowl at the Barstool Bar in Scottsdale, actually, when the Super Bowl was in Arizona. So I've been in the same room with them a handful of times, and then I got to know Marty Mush, and then we kind of hit it off. And we've kind of been discussing making this podcast. It was kind of hard to decide when we should do it, when we should start it with baseball starting and stuff. And then I ended up landing on the IL after the first game. And so we were like, let's just shotgun this. Let's get it going. And yeah, it's been going really well so far. We're going to be discussing like random sports stuff, obviously baseball, Cubs, that kind of thing. Other sports as well, football, NBA, just kind of whatever's going on in the sports world. It's something a little different. I think people will enjoy it.
Yeah, it's called Steele the Show for those who are not familiar. Only one episode released so far, just recorded the second one. If you are watching this on YouTube, I put it in the description of the video. I put a link to that YouTube channel so you can find it there if you want to go check out that podcast. Really enjoyed the first episode. I thought was very entertaining. To be honest, I was not familiar with Marty Mush prior to this podcast. So it's got the thick New York accent was kind of a fun juxtaposition there. But I really enjoyed the first episode.
I feel like people enjoy the mix of personalities with being super Southern and him being a New Yorker. I feel like people really get a kick out of that.
Oh, yeah.
I got a kick out of it. Yeah, it's definitely a fun juxtaposition of the two of you. Seems like a good fit though. Seems like it's going to be a podcast that's going to work.
I think so.
I kind of want to know a little bit more about like Major League Baseball, fantasy football in general. First of all, is it just fantasy football? Let me ask you that. Do you play like any other leagues with your Cubs teammates? Do you play like fantasy basketball, any other sports?
No, mostly fantasy fantasy football with the baseball team. But we have a league that we do every single year. this past year, we actually had 2 leagues, 2 12-man leagues for the NFL season because we had so many people wanting to do it. So same buy-ins for both leagues. We ran the 2 12-man leagues, and then we cut a week off of a normal regular fantasy football season, and then that was the Super Bowl between the 2 winners of each league, and I ended up winning that as well. But so that's the kind of setup we had last year. I think we're gonna actually do just 12 this year. With the guy,
cut out some of the players. Like, are people dropping out?
I think we're just gonna keep the 2 leagues separate. I think
I
instead
see.
of having the Super Bowl, like if we end up having a bunch of people that want to do it again, we'll have just 2 separate leagues rather than like having to worry about like the team in that league. And then, like, I remember in the championship, we had like some similar players that were on the same team and stuff. Like, you'll have that happen from time to time. But I think we're just going to go with 2 different 12-man leagues this year. But that's usually the format with the big league team. And coming up through the minors, I was doing it with the minor league teams, fantasy football. As far as that goes, though, it's just football. And then DFS, like I said, I'll dabble with golf, dabble with UFC, NBA, and mainly NFL.
So this is only your 4th MLB season, and you're 28 years old. Is that pretty common in baseball? Like, I'm trying to think of. I noticed, I was like, man, I thought you were younger than you are because you've only been. It feels like you're pretty new to Major League Baseball, because I think this is your 4th year. In your first year, you only pitched like 4 games. Is that kind of just like standard for baseball?
Yeah, I would say it's different for each situation and even each position. I would say like shortstops, outfielders, whatever the position player is, I would say they probably get caught up a little bit sooner in their career. I want to say pitchers on average get caught up around when they're 25, 26 years old. So I'm pretty sure I was right along the average. And especially coming out of high school, they like teams usually take their time with high school development. Like my first year in pro ball, I only threw like 18 innings. The following year, I only threw like 40 to 60. And then they like slowly was building me up year by year. So that kind of prolongs the process of like getting to the big leagues. And like, they're not just going to call up an 18-year-old who's only throwing. Not saying I was ready by any means, because I wasn't, but I'm just saying in most scenarios, if someone is ready, they're not going to call them up because they have a guide that they kind of go by for high school, at least high school arms in that sense.
Sure.
But yeah, it took me 7 years through the minor leagues. I had Tommy John in 2017. That probably
that delayed you.
Yeah, that delayed me 9 months. I came back in like 8-9 months. Was back in games. After that season, got added to the 40-man roster, was still kind of working the kinks out of coming back from the elbow surgery and whatnot, and then got called up for the first time in 2020 during COVID season for like 10 days and didn't debut that year, but ended up debuting early on in 21, was up, pretty much been up ever since.
Yeah. So yeah, I said I was going to start asking you about fantasy football in Major League Dugouts, and then immediately got sidetracked because you brought up coming up in the minors, and I was like, oh yeah, I kind of want to ask you about that because I mean, you came up and you were immediately like you're really good, like immediately, like your first season, you had maybe a 4.5 ERA in those 4 games, but then like immediately your ERA has been in the low 3s, so kind of seems like you were ready by the time you came up to Major League. I just got a little sidetracked because you brought up coming up in the minors, and
no, you're good. You're good.
I think I know the answer, Justin. If you had to pick any other sport, any position, what would you pick? And I think I know the answer, but let's hear it.
Any other sport, any position. I mean, is it like I mean, I feel like if you're wanting to make money, NBA is probably the best way to go, just because of all the like contracts you see. Like, you got people on the bench making money, like crazy money and stuff. So, I mean, my mind goes there immediately, but just out of like pure enjoyment speaking, I'd probably say quarterback in the NFL, like slinging the pigskin. Like, that'd be sick.
That was my pick. I think Derek Carr needs to watch out. I think you're on his tail.
Oh, hell yeah. Right. I mean, I'm sure. Can you throw? Did you play like high school football, Justin?
No, I actually didn't play football. I played in the yard with my brothers and my friends growing up and stuff. But I had really bad migraines as a kid, so I never like got introduced to pee wee football or anything like that. But was always in the yard throwing the football, catching the football. My dad obviously played, so I was all the time with him in the yard playing basketball, football, whatever. But for me, it was mostly just basketball and baseball growing up.
Yeah. That's Drew knew exactly what the answer was going to be, and that's not a huge surprise to me that you would want to be a quarterback. I mean, you throw pretty hard. Even if it's not, you're not throwing 100, you're throwing pretty hard relative to most people. So yeah, not a surprise you'd want to be a quarterback.
I actually throw the football just about every day before I play catch.
Do you really?
Yeah, I love throwing the football.
You throw a good spiral?
Yeah, I mean, I have good days and bad days. I have days where I throw a little further, and I can actually sling a football behind my back.
You throw with your teammates, or do you throw like who?
Yeah, or with the coaches or whoever's out there catching me.
So who you have a catch with, as Marty Mush would say.
No,
you have a catch.
Don't get us started, please.
I have heard that before, but like playing catches, yeah, that's definitely what I grew up saying. Also, playing catch.
No, it's what normal people say.
Yeah. People from there. That's what they say.
Which teammates do you throw football with?
Jordan Wicks throws the football a lot. Jamison Talion throws the football. I would say everyone probably throws it at least once every 2 weeks or
Everyone's
so. We have a bunch of footballs like around the bullpen and stuff in case you want to sling it around. It's just something good to kind of get the shoulder hot before you start throwing a baseball and like having some like real meaning to it. It's kind of fun to just sling a football around, get loose that way, and then make your throws that kind of have some intent with them.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So I said I was going to talk to you about fantasy football in MLB dugouts. I do actually like, I think it's a really interesting topic. And I don't know if you haven't read it, there was Rustin Dodd did a story for The Athletic last year about how popular fantasy football is in MLB dugouts. And then he went on a mission into NFL locker rooms asking people, hey, do you play fantasy baseball? Do you play fantasy baseball? Could not find a single NFL player who plays fantasy baseball, which honestly kind of blew my mind, as I think fantasy baseball was maybe my first fantasy sport. It was certainly one of my first playing roto leagues, fantasy baseball. But apparently it has not, taken over in NFL locker rooms. Justin, why do you think that is? Is that something that concerns you at all? And do you think that MLB should be doing more to try to grow the game of fantasy baseball?
Yes, I think MLB should do more to grow the game in the fantasy realm just because of the growth NFL has had from the fantasy realm. Yeah. There's so much growth in that aspect. I think what keeps people away, what kept me away from fantasy baseball when I was in high school and stuff, is like there's so much you have to keep up with on the day-to-day basis, and like it's just a lot to keep up with. Whereas NFL, you have one game, one matchup each week. You set your lineups for the weekend. It's a lot easier for the, common man or common woman to like go about a fantasy football season rather than a fantasy baseball season where it's 162 games in a season. You got to constantly be updating stuff, waiver wires and stuff. Like it can be a lot, even for NBA. Like there's a ton of games in NBA. I could see where fantasy NBA can kind of be overwhelming as well. So I would say that's why NFL is a lot bigger than other sports, just because it's a shorter season. It's on the weekends. Everyone's usually freed up on the weekends, and they're usually watching anyways. So I think that speaks to a lot of why NFL is so much bigger than MLB. But yeah, the main thing is MLB 162 games, updating lineups every day.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to get through. I used to love it. Like when I was super into like season-long fantasy sports, because it's like the more you work at it, like unlike NFL where it's like you can have a dominant team all year and then just have one off week and you lose in the first round. Like that can happen in NFL. MLB was like, especially roto, it's like you put the work in, you like and you know what you're doing, you're gonna win. Like you're gonna have a huge advantage for MLB, unlike NFL. So I used to love it, but the older I get, the more I have other responsibilities. Like I'm still I'm actually in an NL only league. I couldn't tell you if you're on my team, Justin. I have no idea who is on my NL only fantasy team because I do the draft and then basically forget that I'm in it because it gets overwhelming for me.
It's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah. Drew, do you do any season-long fantasy baseball?
No, I think I dabbled in high school and college, but to Justin's point, like the daily aspect of 162 or 82 games of NBA, like that was just brutal. You can't do it. It's not for the mass population. It's just crazy. And that's what's beautiful about NFL from a fantasy aspect is that you get the 1 week component, everybody's in who can be in, and that's what makes fantasy fun. And I love what the NBA has done with the end season tournament. I've heard rumblings of MLB looking for other aspects of doing mid-season tournament or whatever, right? And I think that would be really fun. There's articles out there on it, and who knows, like one day that could be really cool. I think bringing in more ways to engage the fans in every single league is what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm in agreement with both of you. Like MLB, like just embrace betting fantasy sports. Like that is just
They
do.
They promote the betting aspect, because I mean I see it on MLB Network and whatever, like whatever the lines are, whatever the case may be, they're constantly showing it. It's the fantasy only, or specifically speaking, the fantasy aspect of MLB. I think that needs to be. I don't know what you do to boost morale around it, or if you change formats around the fantasy season or something, but I think there's some missed opportunities in fantasy baseball, speaking, because like I said, when I was in high school and I had all the time in the world, it was too overwhelming for me at that point. Like just with it every day.
I will say, so I think that MLB could be perfect for best ball, where it's just like you do the drafts, you set.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
And I did some drafts on, as I said, you're one of my top owned pitchers, Justin. I did some drafts on Underdog this year for that purpose, because it's like it shortens the season too. Like it's both like, okay, I set it and forget it, I don't have to do any more work, but also like they're like, you know, midway through, I don't remember the timeline, but June or something, like the first round ends, and it's like kind of shortens the season, so it's not like you don't have to pay attention from April through September, you know, the same way you do for season long. So I do think like if they could just embrace like best ball, or some there are other formats that can be there to really like drive interest in MLB, and I think that I think best ball is one way to do that for sure.
A really good take. Like best ball is probably their best route of like hooking a big group of people who like invest a lot of time into it and like really getting them on board. I think that's a really good take.
Yeah. Then the season is 4 months, right? 3 months. And then the playoffs is 2 months or whatever it is. Yeah. And that's really fun. That's a little bit more manageable for the common fan.
Yeah. I think that it's I said it, and now I really believe what I just said. You guys have convinced me that I'm correct.
You are onto something.
MLB best ball is the way to do fantasy baseball.
Yeah.
All right. I got to ask you about this. Famously, Tommy Pham slapped Jock Peterson over a fantasy football dispute when Pham was on the Reds. Peterson was on the Giants at the time. Is it common? Like I know that every dugout, according to this Athletic article, every MLB dugout has its own fantasy football league. Is it common for fantasy football leagues to span different MLB dugouts? I believe that one was a result of a trade in season. Like maybe Pham got traded in season, but is that a common thing? Do you play any fantasy baseball with people outside of the Cubs?
No. The only league I'm in with MLB players is my Cubs league that I do every year with them. I've been invited to do some leagues that are more broad, and like there's a Barstool league I've heard about. There's an MLB league that I've been invited to, but I'm good with 3 leagues at this point. I don't want to, like, same thing what I was saying about an MLB fantasy season, like it can be overwhelming, and if you have too many fantasy teams you're trying to tend to, you end up not caring about one, you put more effort into another. So I try to avoid that. I try to like keep things like, you know, as interesting as they can be, and I think I got a good mix with 3 leagues, and then I got the DFS and stuff as well.
Okay. And part of the reason that I was curious about this, like, is this a common thing, is because Tommy Pham then came out and called Mike Trout the worst commissioner in fantasy sports. This is a quote from Tommy Pham. Mike Trout is the worst commissioner in fantasy sports. Mike Trout never been on the Giants or the Reds. So I was like, why is Mike Trout the commissioner of this league? Is Mike Trout just like the general commissioner of all the different leagues? Have you ever been in a league that Mike Trout is the commissioner?
No, I haven't. But that's kind of what I'm saying, as far as like there's a few different MLB leagues where it's like you kind of get invited to it, and it's like a hand selected few. But yeah, I would say there's quite a few leagues like that. But for me, I just stick to the Cubs league. Our travel secretary is actually the GM of the league, so he's he catches all the flack. He does a great job, though. He does a good job handling it all. He deals with us all on a daily basis anyways, so it's a lot of fun. But, I mean, yeah, things can get fiery. They can get fiery for sure. I mean, I know when our fantasy season kicks off, like every single day we're in the locker room, there's overreactions, underreactions. I'm trying to sell trades. And, like, I want to say, like, there's a instance I'm thinking of this past season. Someone had Derrick Henry and he didn't get off to the best start. So literally everyone in the locker room the next day is just going at this guy. Like, dude, what's it going to take? You got to get this guy off your team. Like, you're 0-2. You're going to miss playoffs if you don't make a move. And like that's honestly what I love most about it, is like showing up to the locker room each day, just giving each other a little bit of shit about what's going on. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like being on a team and playing fantasy sports within that team. Of course, I mean, I haven't done it since I played cross country. I ran cross country in college, and we had very serious fantasy sports teams. But it's always a good bonding experience to be able to have teammates and compete in fantasy sports with those teammates.
Neil, I got a question for you. You talked about MLB needing to reinvigorate season-long fantasy.
Yep.
I know this has been a common topic on DFS circles, Twitter, whatnot. Do you think DFS is dying, and what do we do to revive it?
Kind of, yeah. Like I think DFS is.
Sorry, gonna make a drink while you're doing.
Yeah, go ahead. Dying might be a little bit of an overstatement. I don't think it's going away. I think that it's getting a lot more difficult for anybody to play it professionally. So like, I think there are people who can still beat the game at a high enough clip to play it professionally. You see the Shady Advice, BP.
Recently, in the last 2 years. Yeah,
just absolutely crushing it. But margins are getting thinner. I would love to see rake reduced on the DFS sites. I think that it's like, I can speak for myself. I have moved so much of my play, like my things that I do, to non-DFS. Like, I still play UFL regularly because it's like niche sports. Yeah, there's still plenty of edge in niche sports. You can beat the rake, but like for me, it's like I'm moving to pick six, to like pick'em stuff, other types of games, best ball adjacent games, because I think that they're just, the edge is larger. Whereas DFS feels like at this point, there are enough people who have access to really good tools. I mean, both of you just said you use SaberSim. A lot of people are using SaberSim, Stochastic, whatever, are using these Sims tools. And like, when a good enough percentage of the field is using these Sims tools, like, it is going to be really tough to win at DFS, as opposed to, it used to be just like most of the field is just like, toilet builders, like sitting on the toilet, building their lineups, hand building. Yeah. Are you a toilet builder? I mean, I am sometimes too, to be honest. I'm not opposed to building on the toilet.
Do my best work on the toilet.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with building on the toilet. But you're also a sharp guy. You need some guys out there who are building on the toilet who are not sharp guys. So it's if you get people on there, if you get the people who are not great at hand building suddenly using SaberSim, which is going to like raise their floor significantly, it's going to be a lot harder to beat the rake long term at DFS. So
exactly.
Yeah, I don't think it's going away. I think it is getting a lot tougher to beat the rake in like NBA, MLB in particular. I think at least that's been my experience. I think NFL, there's still enough bad players hand building for a sport like NFL. The fields are also massive for NFL. So I think NFL probably still beatable. Although I had a rough year last year. NBA, maybe like if you just are dedicated to like doing all the late swaps, you can do it. Like if you just like outwork people, maybe it's possible. But it's definitely gotten a lot tougher. What do you think, Drew? Are you you of course have had a lot of more recent success than I have, so maybe you have a different opinion than I do.
I'm worried. I'm worried. To your point, there are tools out there that help make it easier. That's not what I'm most worried about. What I'm most worried about is what I think is the lack of new players.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple people have come in over the last couple of years, but like, DraftKings, rightfully so, isn't going to share this information. How many new players are playing DFS in the last year? I mean, I highly doubt it's very high. And that's what's concerning. You can bring in new players, and some can be the best players who have ever played, like Shady Advice, and that's awesome. And then as long as there's 80-90% that are just playing our toilet lineup makers, that's great, right? But I just worry that there's no new players, and I think that's the biggest issue. So if MLB needs to find ways of reinvigorating and bring people to season-long, fantasy, I think DraftKings, if they care about it, or FanDuel, which I don't think they really care about it, they need to figure out ways of bringing in DFS players into the ecosystem. I don't see it.
Agreed. Yeah, that sounds right to me. We got a question for you, Justin. Short Gamer TV, who is another one of these great players. He's been around a few years now, but he's 22 years old, absolutely crushes at DFS. He's wondering if there's anyone else on the Cubs that is big into DFS like you are, Justin.
Yeah, I've actually been able to get a bunch of the guys into DFS. I have a little league that I created with just them. So we're able to do NFL, PGA, whatever the guys are interested in. Like I make sure I ask them, like, what's something y'all would want to do. I'm a good DraftKings commish of my league, I would say. But yeah, I would say there is some of the guys on the team who are into it. I'm sure the guys don't care if I say names, but like me and Jameson, we always talk golf. We always talk NFL. These are also guys I'm doing fantasy football with. So Drew Smiley is another guy that's really big into golf, really big into NFL.
A lot of the vets.
Yeah, Tommy Hodden, our pitching coach is pretty good at fantasy, NFL DFS. He's pretty good at it. Smitty, who is actually one of our like analytical guys. So he's obviously good at DFS stuff.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually been pretty fun. So I'm doing what I can to get new players.
Nice. You're the guy we need. We need you to be building the game, bringing in new players all the time. And my understanding is, as an MLB player, so a lot of people, I've never really known what the rules are. You can bet, play fantasy sports, whatever you want on anything, as long as you're in a legal state, like within the legality for the general population. Anything other than MLB is fair game for you, right?
Exactly. Precisely.
Yeah. All right. That's what I thought. I did want to ask you this, and if you're willing to share. So Rustin Dodd, in his article, said that like a lot of MLB teams, the buy-in for the fantasy football leagues is $10,000. Is that pretty common?
Ours was 3,000.
Okay, so you're a little bit lower.
I have heard about leagues with those kind of buy-ins and stuff. I've heard upwards of 15 to 25. But yeah, ours was 3, and that's probably about as high as I'll go right now.
Yeah. Which
what's the biggest single lineup that you've played, or single or season long?
Season long is nothing. I have never played in a high stakes season long league. I think probably for best ball it's like $500, something like that, maybe. Yeah. I think the most I've ever played on a single DFS lineup is like the 44-44. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe I played a 5,000. There was the biggest I've ever played is there was one NFL slate a couple years ago, and it was like, it might have been the week after I split the Millie Maker 4 ways. I think I had $40,000 in play on a Sunday, and even after having just had a big win, that stressed me out so much. Like I was like, I'm never doing this again. Whereas you see other DFS players who are like all the time have 6 figures, some even 7 figures in play. It's I don't understand how you can do it. Like my heart would give out. Yeah. How about you, Drew? Do you have you had a lot of big
no. I like to keep it as minimal stress as possible. You'll see me on a Sunday have 150 lineups across 10, 20, $50 entries, $100, you name it. I don't typically dabble on more than that. I'll play the Wildcat. So what is that, 333?
Yeah.
And that's about the highest I'll play. Have I done higher? Yes. Is that my bread and butter? No.
Justin, do you play any high stakes, or are you mostly I know tonight we were talking before the show, you're playing mostly low stakes stuff, which is funny to me given that you're a Major League Baseball pitcher, due for a big payday, but also, as Drew says, you gotta keep your bankroll separate. Do you ever play high stakes though?
the most I'll do, the most I have done is $100 entry, and it's usually a single entry, and that's usually when I'm feeling confident about a lineup I have built, and there's like other things kind of backing it. And when I feel that confident, I'll usually do like $100 single entry, try and place high in that. But for the most part, I'm doing $1 and $2 contests, 150 max, 20 max, and like I was saying, it's like when there's 3 entry to single entries, I'm kind of hand building those, and it's things that I kind of personally believe that are going to happen and whatnot. And actually, I would say I do pretty well as far as 3 entries, single entries go. But I would say I'm due for a big payday in a 20 max or 150 max. I'm kind of waiting on that still to happen. But when NFL rolls around, I usually dabble in the Millie Maker. Like there's probably about 10 lineups I do that I end up liking, or whatever the slate is. That there's a few core plays I like to do. That's kind of, I never max out the Millie Maker by any means, but I usually roll with like 10 lineups, and it just, you never know, just in case.
Here's a question for both of you. Since I know both of you use SaberSim, I'll ask you this. I'll start with you, Justin. Do you ever check the post-lock sims to see how your expected ROI compares to others? Like right after lock, you can see like in SaberSim, the post-lock sims, see how your lineups compare in the SaberSim post-lock sims. Do you ever check like how they expect you to do?
I haven't. I'm actually not very familiar with that. I think Drew would be way more fit to answer that.
Drew, do you ever check your expected ROI?
Funnily enough, I only figured out this capability a couple of days ago. And Justin, it's something that I've wanted to dabble in. I think the post-lock analytic tools, there's a popular Twitter person that, Neil, I think you and I both engage with, Bro, who used to do amazing post-lock analyses.
Yeah.
And I used to eat up every single thing that he posted. I think having that kind of hindsight and that data is another aspect of what makes DFS really fun and really strategic and data-based. So it's something I want to dabble into more. I just haven't.
Justin, if you're using SaberSim's tools, you're probably doing pretty well in the post-lock sim. It is one of those things where it's like every sim site that does them, it's going to be biased towards their own projections. So like if you're using their projections, you're more likely to do well in their post-lock sims. And I have to confess, I also don't check that. So I'm right on the same page as you. It's something that I'm familiar with. I know a lot of the best players do check that immediately after to see like, okay, this is here's how I did theoretically, but I don't check that as religiously as I should either. So it sounds like we are all kind of on the same page as far as, yeah, it seems cool and probably something that we should be checking, but
it's also not football season. It's a little harder to do the daily stuff when it's not football season.
True.
I think we're also 3 guys who are also not necessarily going by what any one site is saying is going to happen. I think we're all three of us speaking are using different outlets for different kinds of information and kind of just concluding all of it into what we want our opinion to be. And we kind of go off of like what he was saying. He makes his own projections and stuff. I think we kind of all do that mentally in some capacity and kind of go off of that. So just kind of building off what you're saying.
Speaking along those lines, I kind of wanted to know your opinion on, do you think that like being a pro athlete, do you think that you have kind of an edge on like, what it takes to be a pro athlete? You can kind of see like, okay, this guy, like a lot of us think like, oh, this guy's falling apart mentally. Like, people have like opinions about like, this guy is about to crumble, whatever. But like most of us are not pro athletes. We've never actually had 20,000 people watching us play a game. Do you think you have any kind of edge just from like, you've been an athlete your whole life, you've been an athlete at the highest level, which most of us haven't been, understanding the psychology kind of?
I really think there is. I really think how big the edge is, I have no idea. I don't even know if there's a way to measure that. But I think the fact that I am an athlete in the MLB and I think like an athlete in a professional sport, I think that does give me an edge as far as being like trying to put myself in a player's shoes, whether it's hard to give an example, but like, just for instance, let's do NBA or NFL. Like say the schedule hasn't been in their favor. They've been on the road. You kind of look at just you kind of pay attention to those types of things. Like on the personal level is this guy actually going through? Have they been on the road for 2 or 3 straight weeks?
Yeah.
Like seeing my family is super important. Like just things like that. Like I don't even mean to think about it, but I'm thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard to put a number on like how important it is, but I'm constantly find myself thinking, like trying to put myself in their shoes from an athletic perspective.
I didn't even think about the travel aspect of it, but that is a good point. Like that makes such a big difference. Like, man, it's got to be rough. Traveling all the time has got to be pretty exhausting. That's a really, I was thinking more from like and also as a pitcher, like being a pitcher to me is like one of the more isolating like jobs you can have, because it's like you against that batter with 20,000 people or whatever it is, depending on the stadium, watching you. You are just like, to me, it's like the ultimate.
You lose, like you can single-handedly screw that game up.
Yeah. And like I said, I can totally relate because I am a slow pitch softball pitcher. We sometimes get as many as like 3 or 4 fans in the stands. So wow. I know exactly what you're going through, Justin. No, it seems like I cheer for my fantasy teams, but like I cheer for kickers, I cheer for pitchers, I cheer for like the isolated athletes. If
my wife is the same way. My wife is the same way.
It feels like so much more pressure than like if you're a wide receiver, like really, like sure you can drop a ball, but like it's a team sport. Most sports, it's like it's a team sport. You don't have to, but like there's certain positions where it is very, very much more isolating. So I definitely have.
Being a pitcher, you're literally on an island and controlling the game single-handedly, and you could either make it go well or make it go bad, and it's all your fault.
Yeah, exactly. Drew, do you care at all? Are you do you cheer for kickers? Do you cheer for pitchers? Do you cheer for golf? I mean, like golfer is the same thing. It's like it's you on that hole. You don't have any teammates to rely on. Do you care at all, or is it just
so? This is the first baseball season that Justin and I have been connected. On opening day, I watched Justin pitch, and I told him I don't think I've ever cheered louder in watching Justin pitch than ever before, inclusive of like not to brag. I won a GPP a couple months ago in December, and it was amazing. It was my biggest win ever. Like I didn't cheer that loud for that, right? Like the pressure, the island that Justin and other pitchers must go through. Like I can't imagine it. It is wild. And I can't imagine what your wife goes through, Justin. I can't imagine what every pitcher and everyone
members go on the pitch.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I had the same experience with watching my nephew. I said at the beginning of the show, one of my nephews he's a senior in high school right now, going to be a college pitcher next year. But I went to one of his games last year, and I think I ended up going to 2 of his games total, like towards the end of the year. But I was like, I feel like I'm going to throw up watching him pitch, because it was like, my God, this is so much pressure on this kid. Like, and he of course is cool as a cucumber, like doesn't affect him at all. But me like watching and like seeing his dad was just like the whole time, like he's running all around, like totally stressing out. Man, it's different than watching.
I have the exact same I have the exact same text to my wife saying I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Especially that environment, like against the defending champions, opening day. Like I can't imagine, and I know you're level-headed the entire time. And that's the other thing that I think Justin does DFS and betting really well in the sense that, you have the analytics, just like in MLB, you put in the prep, you put in the time, you have your game plan. That's great. You have your plan and you stick with it and you have a level head. I also think, to relate it back to the focus of the pod, is that you need that in DFS. You need that in betting. Yeah. You have to do the work. You have to do the analytics, and you stick with your game plan. And sometimes it works for you, sometimes it doesn't. And that's what's important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely it's good that you have that level-headedness. I think that helps a lot in DFS, because you hear DFS players all the time being like, this player let me down, I'm never going to play him again. Just like people are just overreact constantly to DFS. So you kind of need that goldfish memory to some extent, or just like the ability to stay cool. Like, okay, I'm just going to keep my level head, going to stick to the plan. Definitely important.
You got to be that way as a pitcher. That relates as a pitcher.
Give up a home run, it's like the next play that's out of your mind. Yeah, I can see that. All right, let's talk first of all some Mount Rushmores. So we're getting to, I think we should probably close up the show pretty soon, but I do some of my favorite questions still remain, and I'll start with you, Justin. I want to hear your Mount Rushmore of MLB players, and if you want to, you can do one for pitchers separate from batters, or if you can just do 4 best of all time. Totally up to you how you want to do this.
MLB players. This is everyone.
Yeah.
Barry Bonds, Jackie Robinson, Cy Young, and I'm gonna go. Man, this last one's tough. I'm trying to think like best just pure hitter. I'm kind of stuck between like Ted Williams, Tony Gwynn. I'm gonna go Ted Williams because I believe he's the only person that's hit 400 in a season before. And I'll give a reason. Barry Bonds obviously has the records for home runs, one of the best hitters of all time. Cy Young has the record for most complete games, most innings pitched, and most wins. No one will ever sniff it. It's never been sniffed. It will never be touched. That's why I said him. Jackie Robinson, obvious reasons. Broke the barrier, changed the game forever. So you got to give your respect there. And then Ted Williams, I think it was a toss-up between him and Tony Gwynn for me. I'm just trying to think like best pure hitter. Modern day, I think of Arias for the Marlins. You know, he had
formerly of the Twins.
Yeah, formerly the Twins. He's hit over 300 quite a few times now in the big leagues. His bat-to-ball skills are insane. Doesn't strike out a ton. So when you think modern day, that's kind of someone you think about. For pitchers, obviously, I said Cy Young. Cy Young heads off that Mount Rushmore for me. I think I did this already with somebody, but I went Clayton Kershaw, Sandy Koufax, and then Greg Maddux.
I like that. That's a good list. List. And so my question for Drew is going to be DFS. I assume, Justin, that you're not keeping your finger on the pulse enough to have like an opinion on the DFS Mount Rushmore. But am I wrong about that? Do you pay close enough attention to who the greats are at DFS to have an opinion on the DFS Mount Rushmore?
I mean, I know a handful of the guys that are really good pros just from Twitter.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Seeing them win. I mean, I've discussed this with Drew. I see Mock Lovin all the time when I'm playing contests. So he's someone that comes to mind. Drew comes to mind. Always enjoy what you're putting on Twitter and stuff. So someone I really and I'm not even going off of like Mount Rushmore stuff, just like follows that I enjoy on Twitter. Downside of me, Jesse on Twitter.
He's good.
I don't even know if he follows me, but his stuff is hilarious. Like, because it's so relatable. It's like exactly what I'm thinking. I'm just not tweeting it.
That's great. I love that. That was. I'm glad I asked you because I would have missed out on some great answers there.
Yeah, but the problem with this is now Jesse's going to clip that.
He's going to have such a big. He already has such a big head, and now it's going to.
Damn it.
Now he's not going to follow me.
Yeah, I shouldn't have asked you that. Yeah. All right, Drew.
To quote the great Adam Schur, this is bullshit.
Yeah, right.
All right, my Mount Rushmore of DFS.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I'm not going to go the typical answer, which would be like the most profitable. I think we know a lot of those. I think I want to incorporate some people that, to Justin's point, like some people that I like to follow on Twitter, who I would like to hang out with, who are also just great DFS players and great people from what I see. I'm going to start with Peter Jennings. I feel like the way that he, Peter and I are the same age. When I first heard of DFS, I thought it was stupid. And I was like, this is stupid. Like one day fantasy football, like, are you kidding me? And I think the way that Peter approaches things is open arms. Let's analyze. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's an opportunity here. And I think that's amazing. Let's go with Ricky D. I think the way that he approaches everything, based off of what I've seen, he's a pretty private person. But I think the few things that I've seen is awesome. Big T. I mean, Justin brought him up earlier. Run Pure Sports, what they do is really fun, engaging with the fans. Big T, I think, like me, is somebody who is possible of going on hot streaks and then cold streaks, and he's very open with it. And then I'll toss it to somebody else earlier in the podcast, Frankie Bourne. I mean, I feel like he has been very transparent about going on 500K downswings and then recovering. Like that's impressive. As somebody who doesn't like to admit losses, and to tie it back to earlier in the pod, it looks like I'm going to lose tonight. So I'm going to blame Neil as my
I
bad.
was about to ask you if you guys have how your sweats are going.
Blame you. Look, it's not terrible, but I think I'm going to lose. But like Frankie is very transparent about going down 500K over a couple months and figuring out a way of turning it around. And I think that is very impressive.
Frankie gives me hope, no matter how bad it gets for me. I've seen Frankie do worse and come back out of the hole. Yeah, currently
there's no one who loses 500K better than Frankie.
Yeah. Tonight I am losing all but 70. I have 431 in play. I am winning back $70 of it, and I think it's only going to get worse. I don't see it getting better. Justin, are you having any luck tonight?
How you looking?
I'm entered 293, currently winning 303, but I mean, it looks potential. Like
there is some potential there.
Yeah, one could possibly pop off and jump into a top 10 place, I think. So I think I'm in a good spot right now. Still got some minutes, but my bet hit. The Jokic.
Oh, nice.
Anthony Davis bet did hit.
Yeah, all of my pick sixes I'm pretty sure failed. So this is not my night tonight. We gave it a good run though.
Donovan Mitchell did not get the double-double.
Oh, he ended up not getting it?
No.
Okay, good. I'm kind of happy he didn't.
Yeah, me too.
I guess
we were talking about if Donovan Mitchell double, I think it was plus 550. If that was a good bet tonight,
it was plus 550 for Garland. I believe it was plus 850 or maybe even 1,000 for Mitchell.
Yeah,
it was a little higher.
Yeah. He did not hit it. Neither of them hit it.
Yeah, Garland didn't have the best game.
I'm currently 5 out of 6 on one of my pick 6 entries. If LeBron stays under 26.5 points, it does, right? If LeBron stays under 26.5 points and Jokic stays under 9.5 assists, I can go 5 out of 6 in a pick 6, which is just not that fun. Not that fun, to be honest with you.
No.
So how do pick sixes work? Is it like a parlay? You got to hit all of them?
So yeah, that is a great question. So yeah, it's the DraftKings Pick'em product, but as you might know, DraftKings tries to distinguish itself from Underdog in that it is peer-to-peer. So it's you are playing against your peers. There is rake, and it's something I actually don't even know. I think it's like 80% of the pool of the money in the pool goes to everybody who gets 6 out of 6, and then the 20% goes to people who get 5 out of 6. So you want everybody else to not get 6 out of 6, and you want to go 6 out of 6 to maximize your profits in pick 6. And you don't know what your payout is going to be. Funny story. I had a friend a few nights ago sent out a picture to myself in a group chat that I'm in and said, "Hey, I just turned $5 into $500, getting 3 out of 3 right in pick 6." And I had to tell him, I had to break it to him, "Hey, don't get too attached to those projected winnings," because he was in a night where it was 2 NBA games and it was at the end of the first game. He thought because he had only played players in the first game that that was the only game in his contest. He was like, "Well, I only picked for players from this game, so this game's over." Yeah, he ended up turning $5 into $30 after thinking he had won 500. So that was a tough break for him. Tough to learn that.
It's like having a full NBA or full NFL slate. You just stack that first game.
Exactly.
You just screenshot it. All right, I did it. I'm done.
Yeah. I'm winning.
Yeah. So that was a brutal awakening for my friend to lose all of that. Justin, I had to ask you this. So who is the best fantasy football player on the Cubs?
Me.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
I take a lot of pride in fantasy, man. I like to think I'm good. I'm definitely in the green. I've won some championships. I'm not one to toot my own horn, but when it comes to fantasy sports, especially fantasy football, I'm pretty sharp.
I love it. I love that confidence. number one player on the Cubs. How about do you have an opinion on who is the number one fantasy football player in Major League Baseball?
I mean,
Justin Steele.
Yeah, I'm gonna say myself just because I doubt there's another MLB player putting in the research, the time, DFS speaking, fantasy speaking. Like, it's hard to imagine that there's another MLB player doing what I'm doing as far as the analytical stuff goes. If there is, hats off to them. I hope they're crushing it. But I think it's hard to say someone else is doing it.
Love it. I think you're probably right.
Yeah, here's the other thing that I'll say too is Justin handles it the right way. Neil, I think you alluded to it earlier, is like, oh, MLB player who's making good money betting in a lineup like $1, $2, $5. Like, that's not what it's about, right? It's about proving yourself and figuring out how to beat other players in that game, regardless of the dollar amount, and keeping that bankroll separate versus your 9 to 5, which is what I do. Is that bankroll is completely separate from my family's bankroll, if you will, and building your way up and working your way up.
That's a really good point. I had the conversation with Shady Advice. I was at the NFL live final, was talking with his wife, and she was telling me about her DFS play. And it was like, I don't remember what the numbers were, but it was like, I've turned like $50 into $1,500. And like, you talk to her, it's like, she is really sharp. And I was like, why the hell are you not playing? Like she would probably be, one of the top DFS players if she ups her game. But yeah, I think that it's wiser people than myself who are able to like test their hypotheses before they really dive deep in and play all their money. Just like make sure that you know what you're doing. And it's like Nerdy Tenor. Nerdy Tenor is a perfect example of somebody who like put very little money into test, is what I'm doing correct, before he actually got in. And of course now he's crushing everything. I think that it's wiser people than myself who are able to, like Justin, like just like, I'm gonna dip my toes in first, make sure that what I'm doing makes sense, I'm able to make money off it. And Justin, I'm sure over time, is going to make really good money at these games. All right, I don't have any other specific questions. Jamie actually had this question for you, Justin. He wanted to know when and we kind of already talked about this. Sounds like, Justin, you are a few rehab starts away from maybe pitching in the majors again.
Yes, I would say three rehab starts away. My first one being Friday.
So maybe like mid-May is probably a good bet for when you might be able to go again.
That's a good window for sure.
Yeah. All right. The game is still going on, but it's halfway through the fourth quarter, so we're probably not going to make it to the end of the lake. I mean, if you guys want to, I'm happy to just hang out and talk whatever, but totally up to you guys. I probably
got 5 to 10 more minutes, and then I got to FaceTime my family before they go to bed.
All right. Well, then we can close up here, but I do want to ask. So first of all, I always end every show by asking, and I'll start with you, Just. So I like to ask your favorite win for fantasy sports, DFS, whatever it is, betting, fantasy sports. Tell me about your favorite win and or win celebration. So you have one where it's like, you won $20, but it was like you were doing it with all of your friends, your teammates, whatever. Tell me about your favorite memory in terms of wins and or win celebrations.
Yeah, it's probably some of the few I've already mentioned. The first sports bet I ever placed is something I'll never forget. Going to the casino, getting the ticket, hand printed and stuff. That's something I'll never forget. Beginning my sports betting endeavors that way. Winning that huge parlay, $60 into 25,000. Yeah. My wife was there with me. She was, super giddy about it, video and whatnot. I'll have to send you that video. You'll really get a kick out of that. And then this past year, winning the Cubs fantasy league was kind of like winning the Super Bowl. It was really cool.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Drew, same question. Favorite win celebration, whatever.
Let me go random order here with purpose. First one,
you can go multiple. Yeah.
First one I mentioned earlier, the one with the buddies, my first good win, 5-digit win, kind of kickstart things. That was amazing. One a couple months ago. I think it's my pinned tweet. Justin and I were texting all night. won 200K on my son's birthday. Like
That's
was
right.
That was just amazing. And then the third one, I'll say the first night that you and I really connected. It was for my wife's birthday. Birthdays are lucky. I was at a resort with my wife, checking in on the games, the worst husband ever on my wife's birthday. And I was like, holy shit, like I'm looking really good to win. I think I was in first for 300K. Sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. You were in first for 300K, Neil. I overtook you. And you're like, damn you messaged me on Twitter, like, good luck, congrats. I was like, oh, thanks, we'll see, yada, yada. Fast forward to the end of the night of the most insane, and you have a good write-up on it on Twitter of like back and forth, missed kicks, overtime, you name it. I dropped from first to second. No one's going to feel sorry for me for 150K. I'll take it any day. In a different tournament, you shot your way up to a milli, and that was one of my most unforgettable nights, and the first night that you and I really connected. So I love it.
What I love about this is it is a good look at how memory works, because I was never in first place in that contest. I thought that I had a shot at first place in that contest if Tyler Lockett did not do that well. Drew also he forgets that he made a swap onto Tyler Lockett to put himself in position to potentially be in first. Really sharp swap by Drew. But I was never in first place in that contest. I was like, I might have a shot at like third if things go well for me in this game. And it did not go my way in that contest. But yes, I ended up winning the millie. So it was a good night. Good night was had by all. That was a very fun night.
Congrats on that, dude. That's
sick. Thank you. Yeah. And
didn't we say we were chopping our totals that night?
We I don't you'll talk to my lawyer. Talk to my lawyer, Drew.
All right, we'll do it.
And we're also chopping Justin's next contract, right? The three of us, because Justin is very much due for an enormous contract. He is one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball, definitely due for a big contract from the Cubs, hopefully, or somewhere else. Hopefully,
more importantly, one of the best guys in Major League Baseball.
Also true. Truly.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, guys. That's very kind.
Really appreciate you both coming on the 10th episode of Playing for Keeps. We started planning this episode this morning. I mean, we had talked about a little before about this maybe being a thing at some point, but yeah, this morning is when it really came together, and it was really fun having you both on. Really appreciate you coming on. Justin, I will start with you. Where can people find you? Yeah, I guess that's just my question. Where can people find you?
Yeah. I'll start with Twitter. It's at J_Steele21. And then Instagram's Justin Steele 21. You mentioned the podcast earlier. I believe that's it. I don't think I'm missing anything. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Steal the Show is the podcast. You can find the link in the description of the video on YouTube. And of course, it's the same name on Twitter. It's Steele with an E at the end, Steele, like his name. Drew, where can people find you?
Look, I got nothing going on. You can follow me on Twitter. I don't really post anything, and maybe one day I'll figure it out. But you can follow me at the same name here, Fantasy Guru Drew. Thank you.
All right, Fantasy Guru Drew on Twitter. Thank you both very much for coming on. This is a lot of fun for me. Really appreciate you both coming on. Really appreciate being able to tell my nephews I had a Cubs all-star on my podcast, and of course, one of the best DFS players in the world.
Equally impressive.
Equally impressive. One of the best DFS players in the world.
It is.
Really appreciate you both coming on. Episode 11 should be next week on Wednesday. Another really great guest for that one. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you both for coming on, and I'll catch you next time.